Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Coach Prime, the Colorado Buffaloes, been one of the hottest teams in all of 2024. But what I think should excite most Colorado fans is that the momentum that's being built on the football field seems to be very clearly translating to Colorado on the high school recruiting trail as well, getting a lot of buzz around a lot of top players from across the country. This is how Coach Prime wants to do it. We saw him do it last year. We saw him do it when he came over from Jackson State. He's a late guy. He's going to turn it up on these kids late in the process, and almost every single year, he kind of pulls an ace or two out of his sleeve. It seems like we're on track for Colorado to do the exact same thing in the 2025 class as well. What stands out to me the most is that when Coach Prime got to Boulder, we said that he's going to attract talent. We kind of knew that. But how he had to attract talent was kind of selling the vision of what this Colorado program could be. People forget this was the worst program at the Power 5 level when Coach Prime took this job. You fast forward a little less than 24 months since he's been in Boulder, Colorado. That vision is kind of now turning into a reality. And so you don't need to sell the vision anymore. You can sell the reality of where this Colorado program is going over the next couple of years. That matters on the high school recruiting trail. I think there were a lot of really good players that were very interested in playing for Colorado that looked and said, yeah, very appealing, but I'm not sure if I'm ready to take that gamble on a team that was one of the worst Power 4 teams in the country in 2022. Now you're starting to see a lot more of these high school kids look at this program, look at the success that a lot of young talent has had with this team and say, yeah, this makes a ton of sense to go play your college football up there in Boulder, Colorado. That's kind of what we're seeing play out. Want to get into, the 4 or 5 names that I'm really watching closely for this Colorado program. Now, before we get into it, as always, to the Colorado fans, a lot of which y'all been rocking with the fellas going back to the transfer portal time period as we covered all those commitments. The boys can't thank y'all enough. The amount of support you guys continue to show means the world. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into this one. Let's start with the headliner. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Julian Lewis. I think a lot of Colorado fans very familiar with who Julian Lewis is. Committed to USC. It sounds like Colorado is really gaining momentum in this recruitment. Now, the one thing to watch is Julian Lewis is taking a visit to Georgia this weekend, but everything that we're reading, it does seem like he is trending towards Colorado. This makes sense for me, for both parties. You look at Colorado and say, well, we're looking for the answer at quarterback in 2025. There's not really a clear plan in terms of where Colorado wants to go at the quarterback position once Shador goes to the NFL. Julian Lewis could be that guy. And I'm not normally someone who bangs the table for year one starters at the quarterback spot. I normally think a lot of quarterbacks need a year or two to get their feet wet under them. I look at Julian Lewis and say, this is a guy that is day one ready. We said this when he committed to USC. I'll say it again right now. Julian Lewis, although reclassified from 2026, essentially skipping a year of high school football, has been starting since his freshman year at 7A Georgia football. It doesn't get much better than 7A football in the state of Georgia. So he's played a lot of football at a really high classification in one of the best states you can play your high school football. And he's been, a winner, but more importantly, extremely productive. I mean, going into his senior year, over 7,000 yards, 96 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. That junior year, 48 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. This is a guy that is ready to play early at the quarterback spot, and that's exactly what Colorado is looking for. There's a lot of other good quarterbacks in this 2025 class that I think have very bright futures, but probably need a year or two to get their feet wet. I don't think Julian Lewis is one of those guys, and for that reason, it just makes. And I think playing early is really important to Julian Lewis too. So you look at kind of that easy transition. This recruitment to me just fits perfectly like a puzzle piece. Colorado's looking for a year one guy. Julian Lewis is looking to start year one. This one makes a ton of sense. And if you're Julian Lewis and you're looking at all the success Shador Sanders just had the last 2 years, why would you not want to go play your college football for this Colorado program? Julian Lewis is number one. Now, this is a fascinating story, and I think there might be legit legs to this. 5-star offensive lineman Michael Carroll, IMG Academy kid. This makes sense for a couple different reasons. I think most notably the success Jordan Seaton is having starting at left tackle, another IMG cat. We said this about Jordan Seaton 12 months ago, year one guy. Like if there was a year one starting left tackle in that 2024 class, it was going to be Jordan Seaton. Had maybe a couple games of growing pains to start 2024. People don't realize this kid's been one of the best left tackles in the Big 12 conference over the last couple of weeks, really since that week 2 game against Nebraska. I think Michael Carroll is looking at Jordan Seaton saying, Jordan Seaton had all this success as a year one guy. I don't know if I'm going to get the opportunity at Alabama. I'm probably going to get the opportunity for Colorado. And I think what's most notable about Michael Carroll is that this dude's another year one ready guy, 6'6", 315. He is so physically imposing, especially in the run game. I think he's a year one guy. And you look at Michael Carroll and say he's got tackle size. Look, I think he could play tackle if he wants to play on the inside, which he's a hammer. When you talk about pulling to the play side, it doesn't really get much better than Mike Carroll. I think this one makes a lot of sense. Again, Jordan Seaton, an IMG guy last year, goes to Colorado, ton of success year one. I think Michael Carroll's looking at doing the exact same thing, going to Colorado, being year one starter. Now committed to Alabama. It sounds like that commitment's pretty strong. If there was a team that I think can pull an ace out of their sleeve, it's Coach Prime in this Colorado Buffaloes program. Next one I want to talk about, Carday Smith, another USC commit currently. Now, love Carday Smith. Extremely physical as a run blocker. Probably not a day one guy. And that's okay because you look at Colorado and what they did in the transfer portal. They got some guys that have come in at that tackle position that maybe he needed a year in 2024, but I think will be ready in 2025. I think Carter Smith makes a ton of sense in terms of getting him committed to Colorado, giving him a year to kind of physically develop into a power four starting tackle. Year 2, year 3, year 4, that's kind of where you're getting your value with Carday Smith. He's not a Jordan Seaton year one ready guy, but we kind of talk about this all the time. What's the difference between Colorado in 2024 as opposed to 2023? They're deep along the lines of scrimmage. Last year they weren't very good along the line of scrimmage. They weren't very deep, didn't have a pipeline of talent. That's one of the things Coach Prime is going to look to build. Carday Smith's a guy you want to build that pipeline with for this Colorado program. Big fan of Carday Smith. Now, 2 other names to just monitor. Nathaniel Wubo. Look, as a Michigan fan, I would love to see Nathaniel Wubo play his football for Michigan. Love this kid for a very long time. He's on campus yesterday for Colorado. This is another one that would make a lot of sense. I mean, you look at the linebacker room for Colorado, Levante Bentley and Kai Hill Green both moving on after the season. There will be some opportunity for some young cats to get some playing time at that off-ball linebacker spot. What I love about Nathaniel here is he's the modern era linebacker that you're looking for. I think Levante Bentley's a great linebacker. He's been playing some good football for Colorado. A little bit limited athletically, and I think Colorado fans know that, especially in the Big 12 where you get some teams that are trying to spread you out and play you in space. You want to have linebackers that can go sideline to sideline and play in space, tackle running backs up the flat, carry tight ends up the seam. Nathaniel Wubo-Boateng's that guy. Now, he's not the biggest linebacker. This kid is extremely juiced up. He flies around the football field, plays with his hair on fire. When he puts on a little bit more weight, and again, I'll say this, a little over 6 foot, 205, there's not a pound of bad weight on this kid. He's about as rocked up as they come. You get him up to 220. I think that's another contributor early. And again, for Nathaniel Wubo-Boateng, who again is looking to play early, you look at that Colorado linebacker and say you're losing your 2 top backers. Now, you have some good cats that are kind of waiting in the wings, but I think Nathaniel Wubo-Boateng gets on campus and has the ability to play early and at the very least be a very, very formidable special teams guy as a year one freshman. Last guy I want to talk about, London Meritt. Again, this is something Colorado, I think to kind of take that next step as a program, you want to build that pipeline along the line of scrimmage. Ohio State commit London Meritt, another IMG kid. You got Michael Carroll visiting this weekend, IMG cat. Nathaniel Wubo-Boateng and London Meritt visiting midweek. And Colorado's going to IMG. And they've had a lot of success doing so, obviously, with Jordan Seaton. And again, these are guys that are probably looking at the success Jordan Seaton's having and saying that could be me. When you have true freshmen that are having an impact, that Colorado freshmen are having, whether it's Draylon Miller, whether it's guys like Jordan Seaton, you want to go play. You want to go play early. And a lot of these other programs are not necessarily going to offer you that. Colorado does. London Meritt, 6'2.5", 250, a really, really good athlete for that size. I mean, his twitch off the line of scrimmage, his short area quickness, it's big time. I think this would be another massive addition. And we're talking about, and I think to just wrap this up, if we were to talk about Colorado on the recruiting trail 24 months ago, we'd be talking about 3 stars. You look at Coach Prime going into kind of finishing his year 2, the quality of player that we're talking about coming to Colorado, it's just different. I mean, it's starting to become quite regular. You see guys like Julian Lewis or a guy like Jordan Seaton or a guy like Michael Carroll taking a look at Colorado. And as Colorado continues to win, I think it's only going to get better for this program on the recruiting trail. We'll close it out there. Those are the 5 names I like a lot. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.